Hello and welcome to Just Ride Bikes. I'm David and I'm joined today by Matt. And in this video, we're going to go through some of the changes in the 2022 World Tour Peloton. So the bikes, equipment and the clothing you can expect to see in the first race of the season coming up fairly soon. Now, this time of year is always interesting and exciting because it's musical chairs really, where teams swap bikes and different group sets and the clothing design changes. So spotting your favorite rider or team in that first race can be pretty tricky, but hopefully this video will help you spot your favorite riders. The biggest news so far that you pointed out in your nice document that you prepared for this is the fact that Giant is back in the World Tour Peloton.
Yeah, it certainly is big news. And Giant's been away for the last 2 years when CCC folded back in, I think it was back in 2020. And to see Giant back, that's great news. That's some seriously light tech back in the World Tour. The TCR that we're seeing Simon Yates ride, we expect that to be really, really light. That could be underneath the UCI weight limit as well, even with the 45mm wheels that he's been pictured with. So it's really good to see them back as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think everybody missed Giant in the Pro Peloton the last couple of years, so it's good to see them back. And got to say, the paint job looked pretty good. I am a sucker for a fade, and that sort of a fade looks pretty good, and it matches the kit as well. So I think they've done a nice cohesive bike and kit design. So yeah, top marks for me. I think that's a solid 7 out of 10 if we're giving ratings, which are not, but just did so.
Yeah, it's certainly a different paint job to their last World Tour bikes. When they were CCC, it was just a plain matte black finish, and then obviously they went to town a bit with Greg Van Avermaet and the gold Olympic champions bike, but otherwise it screams 90s retro. It's very very retro.
The 90s are back in fashion, aren't they? So yeah, that's a big news really. They're back in the Peloton. Hopefully Simon Yates will give them a podium at least, maybe even better. See how their form is doing. And so dual race group sets, the picture with the old 11 speed, I'm sure they'll be on 12 speed at some point, and their own Cadex wheels, which gives them the option of tubeless. And I think they switched over to Continental for tyres. So hopefully we might see them on tubeless going forward. Something to watch out for. We don't know at this stage yet what they'll be riding, do we? But
yeah, it looks like those Cadex wheels. I think they're hookless. I think they're a hookless 45. So it could be that they're actually the GP 5000S TRs. You can sort of see what looks like a tubeless valve on that on the pictures that have been released. And from the bike that Yates has got with him, it looks like it's probably actually the 12-speed group set, but with that Dura Race crank set from the 11-speed. It looks like a 9100p power meter chain set.
That's a good spot, actually. You can see from the hoods that they are the newer hoods, aren't they? So yeah, they're using the older cranks. That's interesting.
They've got that little funky angle in on the top of the hoods and the disc rotors as well. They're the XTR ones, so saving a little bit of weight there, which is a bit crafty. But that bike's going to be really light, even with the aero wheels. So yeah, good bike.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how close to the UCI weight limit that bike is. So hopefully we can get a closer look at some point and see how close it is to 6.8. limit. So that's that's the first one on the list. And then on to the next bike. Probably quite a big change because Team Total Energy are now on Specialized bikes with the signing of Peter Sagan. So it's a pretty serious upgrade for a French team, I think, to get Peter Sagan and the might of Specialized. And we got a picture of a tarmac SL7 there. So this is a special paint job for Peter Sagan. He always gets a custom paint job, and I think it looks pretty fine, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, really nice. The SL7 is a good looking bike. Plays on the old tarmac SL6 and a couple of aero touches from the Venge. It's a nice bike, and I think we can see there it's got the 11-speed Dura Race rather than 12-speed, but also with the XTR rotors. Hopefully Sagan's going to be doing some good jobs there with the sprints at if they're invited to the Tour, that is, and the stages that he might be able to win there. The rest of the team, they're on a red finish, nice red fade, I think, aren't they?
Be interesting to see how it gets on, and the bike definitely looks good. I like the contrasting seat post on that frame. So yeah, nice bike. And then sticking with a Specialized theme, we've got the Quick Step Alpha vinyl bikes, as they're now called. So SL7, the same. Got a very nice paint job, actually, liking that. And we have the first sighting of this year on a pro bike of the new 12-speed Shimano Dura Race. So those bikes look pretty hot, don't they, I think?
Yeah, that quick step train is certainly a fast train to be on, and I think there's going to be more success with those bikes this year, both in the high mountains and on the classic stages and the flat sprints as well.
Definitely, and I think one of the interesting things to watch out for, if we've seen in the last 12 months with the team, is specialising in Roval and what tyres and setup they use. I know they've been using latex inner tubes and tubeless a little bit. So what they use going forward will be interesting to watch out for. I don't think we can tell from this photo what they're actually using. I'm guessing it's just on clincher tyres, there probably, aren't they? But
it looks like clincher tyres from the shape of the inner tube, from the shape of the valve that you can see dropping down. Normally, you'd see a little bit of chunk where the valve goes back to the rim for the that tubeless nut to fasten it to the rim to get that seal. So it looks like they've just got inner tubes on for the photos, but can certainly imagine that they'll be using tubeless tech for most of the races.
Cool, that's them. And then on to the next big team is Ineos Grenadiers. So they're on the Dogma F, which was rolled out halfway through the season last year. So I don't think they used it much today, really, but they are using it this season. And they've got some pictures from the training camp, and they're all on the Dogma F. Most of them using disc brakes. So I guess the big question there is around whether you use disc brakes or rim brakes. I guess they have the option. The Dogma F is available with both. I guess eventually they will all switch to disc brakes. It seems crazy if they don't, but we might see a mix this season. What's your thoughts on them using disc or rim brakes?
I think we all knew it was going to be inevitable that disc brakes were going to have a firm monopoly in 100% of riders using them in the Peloton. I do have a sneaky hunch about this, that when it gets to the high mountains in particular, we'll see riders, especially in the GC, and their sort of lieutenant, their right-hand man, so to speak, riding a rim brake bike with them. Because I think if we look back to, I think there's a 2020 Tour de France when Richie Porte got a puncture on a mountain stage and he ended up slipping back on the GC. But he had Bauke Mollema, his teammate, with him, but couldn't get a wheel change. Obviously, two different size riders, can't switch bikes. I think from the wheel change perspective and GC hopes, for the high mountains where there's no descent, switching to rim brakes for those stages would be a good idea. But obviously, stuff like inventory management, spare bikes, spare wheels, all those kind of things, logistics just plays a big part of this as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see them on rim brakes for those kind of stages, but looks like they've all moved to disc now, so, get your disc brake bike out.
Yeah, I mean, we've not had a definite kind of confirmation out of the team. I think they've cited wheel change, like you say, as being one of the issues, and weight being the other issue, but we know the Dogma F is lighter. So it remains to be seen, really. And we've seen them dabble with some crazy lightweight wheels last year, so we might see that again this year. So yeah, definitely one to watch.
From the aero perspective, there's no difference. There's very little in there. Rim brakes are marginally more aero, but it's still debated. But from what I know, I think it's there's a 2-watt penalty or something like that.
Is that it? Yeah, it's not slowing down other riders, is it? Mathieu van der Poel and Alaphilippe are all on disc brakes, so they're doing pretty well with disc brakes. So time will tell. But yeah, I don't see any other changes. I guess business as normal, really, isn't it? Just whether you use disc brakes or rim brakes, same tyres, same selection of wheels. The bike's got a slight refresh in the paint jobs. There's a lot more red on it this year than last year, I think.
Yeah, lots of more red, and I believe the paint jobs for Ineos, they're partnered with a company down in Silverstone, a company called Silverstone Paints. They are using the Formula One technology paint, the super lightweight paint jobs. Normally, a paint job would add a couple of 100 grams to a frame. These are said to be somewhere in the region of like under 100, which is fantastic tech, which means they can show off all the sponsors' logos, but still keep the weight off.
Even more marginal gains then. Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to comment on the socks over the leg warmers. Not sure about that personally, but we'll leave that for the comments to decide on that one. So that's bikes. That's all the bikes we've had released so far. It's still early in January the 5th at the time of filming, so we might see more bikes being released over the next few days, so we can update this as we go. Group sets. I guess a big change is Shimano's new Dura-Race R9200 12-speed. Launched last year, didn't really show up in the Pro Peloton, but we expect it to be rolled out this year. I guess given the supply issues, it might take a while before all the teams, and they do supply a lot of teams, almost kind of all the teams really, so it might take a while before all the teams are on it. But what are your thoughts on Shimano 12-speed and supplying all the teams?
I think they will certainly. I think there's eight teams that are officially sponsored by Shimano. Those teams will be
Okay.
on that sort of priority list. I believe it's teams like the Ineos Grenadiers, Quick Step, Scott, Team DSM, and I think Jumbo Visma. All
Yep.
those teams that can get this really special tech, like extra large chainrings on request, for example, for a TT. Those teams, they'll all be sorted. They probably will have been sorted long in advance. I have seen from teams like Israel Startup Nation that I think they're currently training on 11-speed bikes. They're not sponsored by Shimano. They buy in all their group sets from Shimano,
Okay.
which is why they run stuff like the ceramic speed pulley wheel systems. Whether they'll have 12-speed, they might be saving it for the race days. It's anybody's guess at the moment, really. The supply chain issues are all over the shop with the industry at the moment, so anybody's guess.
And switching from 11 speed to 12 speed might seem like a pretty trivial thing, but when there's hundreds of bikes in each team and all the spare wheels and cassettes, there's a lot of components, a lot of parts. So yeah, it's going to take them a while, I think, to get them all up to speed and make sure mechanics know how to work the new stuff. And normally they try and do it during the off season rather than during the season, because that's the last time you want to try and change equipment, isn't it? So if they don't do
Yeah,
it during the off season, they could potentially leave it till next year before they make the switch if they haven't already.
yeah, and I think, I mean, yeah, as I said, the whole logistics is a massive part of it, but there's also, for some of the teams, there's a cost element involved as well. Teams like Israel Startup Nation, they buy their group sets in. I remember seeing a few years back, AG2R or Azure Desert, they were riding Dura Race shifters, derailleurs, but they were actually using Ultegra level cassettes and chains just to keep the cost down because of how
Okay.
quickly the riders go through them. So there'll be some of that going off as well. So some teams will be making stock of the Ultegra 12-speed components. No doubt, I imagine that's very likely to happen. There's no difference between Ultegra and Dura Race apart from the weight, and performance wise, it's about the same. So that'll be sort of where I see that going.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think you could also argue that the teams on 11 speed who are buying their own might say we don't need 12 speed. 11 speed works just fine. 12 speed doesn't get us any real advantage other than wheel change from the neutral support, perhaps. But and maybe just be pressure from Shimano to, hey, you got to buy a new group set. But they might say no, put it off for 12 months, perhaps. And so we might see a mix of 12 and 11 Dura Race in the Pro Peloton this year and a bit of Ultegra here and there. So yeah, an
Yeah,
interesting one to watch out for, I think.
and I certainly expect a lot more of the pro Conti level teams. I certainly expect more of those to be riding 11 speed than we'd expect to see the World Tour teams. But
Yeah.
that's sort of just a hunch, really.
Campag have lost one team where Lotto Sudal switched to Shimano. We don't know what Campag or SRAM might have up their sleeves for new group sets this year, but no, I'm sure they have something. 13-speed Campag or SRAM, who knows? So we'll have to watch the space on that one. So we've done bikes, we've done group sets, and now we're getting to really interesting stuff. And this, what you really got into is you identified loads of quite big clothing sponsored changes, which we don't normally see in the Pro Peloton, and lots of musical chairs here, really. So I'll let you take it from here. Let's start with Ineos Grenadiers, probably the biggest change of clothing sponsor or supplier for 2022.
Yeah, so with the 2020 season, lots of kits have changed hands. We now see the Ineos Grenadiers. They announced theirs earlier in the season that they will be using BioRacer. That's an interesting move. BioRacer have usually made some very fast skin suits. They're known to be using 3D scanning to scan TT skin suits around the riders, optimizing seam lines. So that's going to be a really interesting switch to see what kind of skin suit level technology that riders are going to be using on those TT stages. We know that Ineos love a TT. They're the owners of the marginal gains philosophy. So really do expect some fast kit to be worn by those guys. And with Castelli leaving Ineos, they join Quickstep Alpha Vinyl. That's a change I didn't really see coming. But that's some really fast skin suits on the back of Alaphilippe in a TT as well. So that's going to give the guys at Ineos and other GC leaders, that's going to give them a lot to think about for a TT. that's a nice switch up. Bora Hansgrohe leaves Sportful. Obviously, Peter Sagan has left Bora. He's probably likely looks like he's taken that sponsorship with him to Total Energy. But British brand Lecole see their return back to the World Tour with Bora after they did sponsor Bahrain McLaren, now Bahrain Victorious.
That's right, yeah.
So that's an interesting swap. Yanto has worked hard on developing some fast skin suits, so that's quite interesting to see.
It's great to see them in the Pro Peloton a couple of years ago with Bahrain, like you say. It's a shame to see them leave, but now to see them back is good, and they have come a long way. I can't remember when they launched actually. And I actually got to go and see Yanto at the Silverstone wind tunnel last year for a feature, and they were trying out some new speed suits and skin suits developed with McLaren, and it's really fascinating to see them kind of really pushing the clothing technology as much as possible. So I do expect big things from the brand and the team, hopefully. So yeah, so it'll be a one to watch very closely, I think, to what they roll out and how the riders do with that clothing.
Movistar and they're leaving Ale for La Passion, a brand I'm not too familiar with. We'll have to see. It's a nice looking kit though. It's got a touch of Team Sky to the horizontal stripes, I think.
Yeah, there's not a brand I'm familiar with either, to be honest. But like I say, horizontal stripes definitely reminiscent of Team Sky, and that sort of the M become more of a moustache every year, I think. But
and then we've got Cofidis. They have left Nalini, who have now gone to Team DSM, and that Cofidis will now be wearing the decathlon stocked brand Van Rysel, which is an interesting move. I didn't I didn't really know too much about Van Rysel. They've been a brand of decathlon for a while. I think they were launched by Decathlon. I could be wrong. All very interesting. Yellow jersey with the photos that were released recently. Their kit is going to be released tomorrow officially, so it could be that the yellow jersey that we've been seeing on the Instagram profiles of riders could just be a bit of a training top or a jacket or an overlayer.
Okay, I think we saw Trek doing that with Bontrager a few years ago. Like they had a yellow training top, didn't they, for visibility purposes, and then switched to something else for racing. So
yes, it's quite common. It's quite common now for lots of teams to have a training colour. Promoting the rider's safety when they're not racing. Then the Ineos Grenadiers have the bright orange. So all about increasing rider visibility when they're training, looking after the riders. That's a big important thing to be factoring in. It's, after all, these guys, it's their 9-to-5 job. So, workplace safety and all that we have to abide by in the office. Their office is on the road, so keeping them safe is also very important. Next on in sort of the kit changes, Intermarché Wanty-Gobert, they're going to be using no pins, and I think that was announced sort of halfway through last season as well. No pins, really famous for developing that skin suit pocket, number pocket technology, which, funnily enough, required no pins. It was a great move for them to developing that number pocket, and they've developed skin suits as well. Developed some really fast skin suits. I know there's been tangible differences over competitors in the past, so it'd be interesting to see what they've developed in the for this year with Intermarché Wanty-Gobert. So that's also quite a good change as well for them.
And it's a British company as well, isn't it? Which is good as a British
British company,
resident, to see them doing well. So they come a long way in a short amount of time. So I'm surprised I guess they have a good pattern on it, but nobody else has copied it or imitated it yet, because safety pin seems such a arcane way to attach a number. And if you ever try to attach a number to a jersey using safety pins, it's so old fashioned, isn't it? It must be a better way, and they come up with a better way. So it's surprising more companies haven't really copied them, really.
Yeah, we've seen pockets on the back of skin suits, for the last number of years, really. However, are they all being done by no pins? I don't quite know. Who's attaching the speed pockets onto these things? But it is now being a bit more commonplace on the skin suits. But the tech in terms of putting it onto the roads jerseys or the road race suits, I don't quite know if any of the other teams are doing that.
What about Nalini? They're now working with Team DSM, are they?
Yes, so Nalini, they're working with DSM. DSM were, I think they were with BioRacer, and they were developing their own skin suits with with them. Last year, we saw on the sprint stages the sprinters having a very weird looking skin suit with I think it had the latex shoulders. Lots of aero tech going into their skin suits, and it had the funny sleeves as well. I think they called them, didn't they call them something like the sprint sleeve, with the trips to help the airflow over the arms. All very marginal gains. I don't know if they're going to still keep some of that technology back that they've developed themselves, but that's an interesting switch up as well. And then I think some of the news that we could have missed really was the yellow jersey. The yellow jersey for the last 5 years, plus at least, has been made by Lecoq Sportif, and then this year it was announced that Santini would take over making the yellow jersey, and then Santini already make the red jersey for the Vuelta a España. So it's sort of another ASO race that Santini's coming over to. It's good news for the leader of the general classification and the leader's jersey, because it means they're actually going to have some very good dedicated tech. Lecoq Sportif has spent a lot of money developing skin suits. Compare that to a Santini skin suit, I think a Santini one would be a bit faster. Skin suits play a massive part, and we really can't undermine how much of a role that they have, especially in a time trial. 80% of a total drag is down to the rider. Most of the rider is made up of their body, which is, funnily enough, where a skin suit comes into play. So really important to be focusing on that, but also we also don't need to get too absorbed into it, because a rider who's strong enough will win, as long as they race sensibly. So the tech is good to look at, but also it's not going to be the be all and end all.
There's quite a few changes. I'm surprised how many clothing changes there are. Really, more clothing changes than bikes, wheels, or group sets this year. So
last year we had the big merry-go-round of the Cervelo, Scott, and Bianchi bikes. This year we've got a merry-go-round of the kit. So it swings and roundabouts. In a couple of years' time, we'll be in the same position.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always a bit of fun. Keeps on our toes and gives something to talk about this time of year before the racing starts as well. So let us know down below which bikes, what kit you're most excited about, and if you've got your own observations as well, do let us know down below if we missed anything. And I mean, we're doing this on the 5th of January, so a lot of bikes and teams haven't released their new stuff yet. So hopefully we'll do a follow-up. But do let us know down below. So Matt, thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Going through some of the it's a pleasure going through some of the techie details on the Pro Peloton, and keep your eyes peeled for more hot bikes and stuff coming very soon. But for myself and Matt, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all again very soon.